Hey everybody, welcome back. In today's episode of Raising Unicorns, no comment is no bueno when it comes to your video ads. Learn how to interact with comments on your paid advertising. Unicorns are real. At Harmon Brothers, we use insanely shareable video marketing to scale businesses from where they are today to where they want to be in the future. And we've been honored to help several companies grow into those majestic creatures. On the Raising Unicorns podcast, we share the knowledge we've learned along the way to help you grow your business into the success you know it can be. So whether you're working towards that unicorn status or just going from hundreds of thousands of dollars to over $1 million in sales, hit subscribe and come along for the ride.
Hey, welcome back to Raising Unicorns. Today we have a little bit of a shift in the format and I want to get feedback on it. So if you could, in the comments, wherever you're listening, please leave us a comment and let us know how you like this episode. It's going to be a little bit quicker and just going to hit on what we're going to call a quick win or a golden nugget. And today I want to talk about managing the comments on your ads. One of the things our clients are sometimes unprepared for when we launch a campaign is just the sheer volume of comments that they suddenly have to deal with. And sometimes by not prepared, I mean, there's no one there. There's no one ready to actually respond to and moderate those comments. And this happens for two reasons. First, if you're just used to posting organic content, you're unlikely to see the kind of traction or the kind of viewership that you would see on a paid ad. The obvious thing here is that now you're spending money for distribution, meaning potentially millions of people are going to be seeing what you're posting, and it's generally going to be more views, more interaction than you see on organic social media. Now, the other reason is that our content is generally more engaging. It's formulated to evoke some sort of response. Usually that's to go to some website, make a purchase, fill out a form, some of those types of things. But because the content is more engaging, it's shared more, which means it's commented on more, and that's kind of a cycle. And so you're likely to see more interaction on these videos, on your advertising, than you would see in organic social, unless you happen to hit on some sort of bolt of lightning on some viral content, essentially. So what we're going to talk about today is 3 areas that you need to be paying attention to so that you can get the most out of those ads. I'm just going to list all 3 of them off first, and then we'll go back and talk in detail about each one of them. So the first one is just your response time. The second one is the brand voice. And the third one is how to moderate content appropriately, especially when it comes to some of the more tricky situations. So in the first one, response time is super important. I would just say you need to respond to comments as quickly as possible, but not more than 48 hours, especially for negative comments or customer support type issues. People expect that, maybe not on the negative comments, but when it comes to customer support type issues, people expect to be responded to within 24 hours, sometimes even sooner. When it comes to the negative comments, responding to those quickly is in your favor, because if those build up, then that impacts the performance of your ad, because people seeing all the negativity are less likely to, number one, engage with the ad, and number two, less likely to actually take action on your call to action. And so our gold standard is 1 hour here at Harmon Brothers, but depending on your team, you might set that to 30 minutes if there's somebody dedicated to social media and responding to those comments, or it could be as long as 24 hours. But we generally don't recommend waiting longer than that unless, there's some extenuating circumstance. Maybe there's a holiday or something like that and people just need to take some time off. All people need time off. I understand that. The weekends, we're even in there responding to comments on weekends because some of these things can get out of hand if you leave them for too long. So that's response time. Just make sure that you're doing it as quickly as possible, but I would set the expectation to make sure that all of these things are resolved within 24 hours. Okay, let's move on to brand voice. So it's super important to be authentic. That's key to building trust with your audience. So obviously be genuine in your responses. Avoid using canned responses when you can, or copy and pasting the same reply to multiple comments, which you can do. So we have a client who has ingredients as an example for their direct-to-consumer product. And a lot of comments ask the question, hey, what's in this? What are the ingredients? Those kinds of questions. And obviously you don't want to type out that full response every single time. So go ahead and get those ingredients, put them into, your notepad, whatever it is, so that you can easily copy and paste those. But if you can, add a little more text to your response so that they're differentiated from each other and feel a little bit more personal if you can. The second thing is that you should obviously use a positive tone. Now that's obvious, but it's not always easy. But if somebody leaves a negative comment, a lot of times those trolls are just trying to get you to go down their rabbit hole. But what you should do instead is try to respond in a way that shows you're open to feedback and you're willing to make improvements. I remember a comment on an ad that we responded to pretty recently of a guy just saying, "This is the crappiest ad that I ever saw. Like, I never liked it." Now, this was one of our most successful ads that we've ever done. And so I think that could have been, for lack of a better term, it could have gotten under our skin. But I think what we did instead was we used that comment, that negative comment, as an opportunity to say, well, hey, you might feel like that, but the reality is that that ad grew this company from literally $0 in revenue to over $1 million a year and an acquisition at north of $1 billion. It also became a Harvard Business School case study. So mission accomplished, right? Like, you may have hated the ad, but it did what it was intended to do. In fact, probably more than we thought it would do. And so there are opportunities there without going negative that you can continue to inform. I've also seen it where negative comments have come in, or comments that have seemed or felt negative, but that were actually genuine questions. And so when you address those in a way that shows positivity, that shows that you're listening, it gives you the opportunity to, again, add some knowledge to the conversation. And I've seen those conversations completely turn around, even to where there's been apologies and things like that, and people saying, oh, like, I didn't understand that. I didn't know that. That's actually awesome. And so again, you can use negative comments in some cases to turn something into a positive. So as long as you keep it positive. And when it comes to things that are just really negative, we'll get into that in that moderating appropriately that we'll talk about in just a second. Just a couple more tips here. I would say keep it short and sweet as much as you can. People tend to skim through comments, so avoid rambling and going off topic. One thing that we like to do is ask questions in our responses just to encourage further engagement and build that sense of community. Asking those questions can help to gather insights into what your audience is interested in. We actually get a lot of ideas for ads from the common threads or the specific questions that we see in comments. So gather those up, give that feedback to your creative team, and let them go to work with it. And you can turn these comments into additional creative work. That's a little bit of, call it a comment hack, if you will. The last thing I would say is just show appreciation. Like a really easy response to comments is just to thank people for that comment in the first place. Thank them for their feedback. That shows both that you value their opinion and that you're committed to building a strong relationship with your audience. And when you do that, it engenders trust in your brand and gets people to continue to comment. And that's helpful for a few reasons that we'll go over in the wrap up. Okay, last one here, moderating appropriately. So in many cases, when the trolls come, you're tempted to delete a post, and we totally understand that. Thankfully, at least on Facebook and some of the other platforms, we now have the ability to do better than delete posts. So if you delete a post, the poster, the commenter, is likely to see that their post has been deleted because they won't be able to find it anymore. And that can actually lead you into more negative responses from that person. It can just fuel them. And usually each time a comment is deleted, they get more and more upset. And so it just makes things worse. What we often, in fact, almost always recommend instead is just hiding that comment. Now, when do we do that? Well, when a comment is offensive, when it's just completely off topic, when it's critical of the brand in many cases or of the product, we will hide that comment and then respond individually. And sometimes we'll also hide comments that mention competitors unless we can use it to our advantage. So those are times that you could just hide the comment. Now, when you hide a comment, the reason it's different from deleting it is that commenter and their friends can still see the comment, but the general public won't. And that's nice because they don't really know that they're essentially being quieted. And so they get less upset about that because they just don't know exactly what's going on. They don't realize or they don't feel like their post has been deleted. So that can be a huge advantage. So I would just recommend, again, if there are maybe a comment's racist, maybe uses offensive language, whatever it is, just go ahead and hide that comment. And then if you need to, you can follow up with them in a private message. In fact, usually when we have a comment that's critical of the brand, or when they have a customer support issue that calls into question the ability of the company or the quality of the product, some of those types of things, when it can't be used as constructive feedback, then we will turn that into an opportunity to have a discussion with that commenter and try and help them out. Just provide great customer service, and that will often turn the sentiment around. Okay, so those are the three areas areas where we would recommend you spend some time thinking about your processes in responding to comments. And managing comments on your ads, doing it the right way, the advantages can be huge. So there's a few things that go on when you do this right. Number one, you build social proof on your ads. So picture an ad with 50 comments. If you can respond to each one of those, you're now at 100 comments, or usually even more if your responses continue the conversation. So, there might be a thread with 5 or 10 comments, and that helps to build that social proof on your ad. And when you have more comments, more shares, more likes, those sorts of things, people are more likely to engage with your ads in the future. The second thing is that you increase your engagement ranking on Meta, which is basically an ad relevance metric, and that can help increase or improve your advertising outcomes. The third thing I would say is that keeping things positive, engaging could also factor into the quality ranking, which is another Meta metric that they consider when serving those ads. And so when you're able to, I would say, impress viewers with your engagement, with the responses that you give, with the interaction that you have with real humans, right? Real potential customers, that allows them to see that, hey, there are people behind this business. It builds trust and can help your ad spend to be more effective. The other, just a couple more advantages that I would say in doing this right. Doing this right can actually lead to improvement within your organization. When you have people who are in there with the users, understanding what matters to them and having conversations with potential and actual customers, it can help you to improve your product, improve your organization, and really just get that feedback going to the people that it needs to, so that your processes or even your product can be improved. And the last thing that I would say, and where this really matters, is that it builds trust in your brand and it really sets you up for long-term success. Don't ignore comments. When you do that, you basically waste a large part of that ad spend. And so again, it just goes back to being timely, to using brand voice. I mean, whether that's using animated GIFs or using humor in those responses can really go a long way in lightening the mood and encouraging others to comment and again, build that social proof. And then obviously moderating appropriately. Use that hide button. The great thing about it is that it allows you to control the conversation a little bit, not let things get out of hand. And the reason that that's important is because you're paying for these ads. You're paying for people to see your content, and you have every right to moderate those comments and make sure that the comments on your ads are something that are actually helpful to your ads. And with that, we'll wrap this one up. Hope you learned something that can help you in your business, and we'll see you on the next one.
I read all your comments, usually when I'm on the toilet. 2 TMI? Sorry, not sorry. So if there's a marketing topic you want to know more about, let us know in the comments section and we'll address it in a later episode. Do it right now. Just don't forget,